Welcome in to another episode of Betting the Pitch. I guess we missed unfortunately, I think my computer is muted, but we're live. We're going to go through the English Premier League and La Liga midweek matches, some makeup matches in Spain, and of course, a huge English Premier League card. And I completely forgot about Tuesday FA Cup on the weekend, just screwed everything up and missed a whole day, half the league, unfortunately. And my FPL lineup is still set as if it was like 3 weeks ago. So we're off to a great start. But we got 5 Premier League matches to talk about. We got about, I think, 3 or 4 La Liga matches, and it might be a more brief episode. So welcome to Late Night with the Real underscore G Warner on Twitter, Instagram, and Patreon. Of course, it's after midnight because I just can never sleep. But I'm just hoping that eventually we'll get to Saturday weekend soccer and then Champions League stuff in the midweek. Because for some reason, those days are feel like the past. On this episode, we're going to go through Spain and England, their regular domestic leagues, and then get you a best bet from each of them, plus an ultimate best bet. So picking my favorite of what's coming up this week. Had a great weekend. I'm going to try to keep that going as long as possible. We'll start in the Premier League because that's where the money is. And Manchester City are hosting Burnley on Wednesday. It looks like a little bit slightly earlier start, early afternoon here in Dallas, Texas, but ultimately not too bad. And I guess I won't have to wake up for this one, thank God, because I don't think I don't know the last time I slept till 1:30. But that is a January 31st game, so I might as well get into this now. Since it is already the 31st here in Dallas, Texas. But Man City, a 2.5 goal favorite. So they've not been playing great for all of the season, but they've dealt with a ton of injuries. So it's hard to say who the true Man City are right now. I think Burnley are going to go on the road into the Etihad, and they're going to try their best to keep this as low scoring as possible. Currently, Man City, a 2.5 goal favorite with all the juice, potentially climbing to 2 3/4 before this kicks off. Over under is 3.5, juiced all the way to over. So clearly, Bet Online, where I'm quoting all lines today. If you're not a member there yet, go make a first time deposit, get a 50% match bonus from Bet Online, or 100% from their sister site, SportsBetting.ag, which is, I think, the same lines, same everything, same limits, same all the sort of stuff, but you get a 100% match up to $500 at sportsbetting.ag. The link is in the podcast description if you're watching Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. If you're on Twitter, unfortunately, I haven't found a way to do that without killing my character count. So you might need to wait till it's uploaded there, or check my pinned post on Twitter, twitter.com/thereal_G Warner, best spot to find links to pretty much everything that I'm promoting today. In case you missed something, want some free money, casinos giving you money to use against them, I think is one of the best strategies for me to win some money. And I guess reduce your risk while potentially increasing your odds. So anyway, Burnley, a 2.5 goal underdog, probably get to 2 3/4 before the kicks off. Total at 3.5 is still, it feels high to me just based on Man City's offense really struggling. I mean, they didn't look great this weekend on the road at Tottenham Hotspur. Certainly, it was a different type of setup, and there was a lot of money coming into Tottenham. I think pushed them from what I thought was going to be 1 goal underdog, or was earlier in the week, all the way down through 3/4 to a half. And I don't know that necessarily it was a lot about lineups, but then Man City's didn't do much, but they did hit the under and they did win the match and cover the spread. So not great, and certainly doesn't make the Premier League market look great, but there's a lot of money in it. And most of the time, I feel like the easiest way to take advantage of soccer betting in Europe specifically is just betting against English clubs when they play continental tournaments or the Champions League, Europa Conference League, those such things, which, by the way, look out. We'll be doing those coming up very, very soon. But in the league, it's a little bit different. Certainly, I think, as you'd expect with Barcelona and all the biggest clubs and across all sports and really in betting anywhere, expect the good teams to get bet. So we'll probably see Burnley get 2 3/4 goals, maybe three, but probably not since we're on the same day now. But I think under 3.5 is my biggest interest in that one. Well, next move to, I guess, same window. We got Tottenham against Brentford. This is a London derby potentially, but it's about as weakly described as one of those as you could, because I don't know if anyone on the North London side cares about Brentford on the West side. And so here we go. Tottenham currently a 3/4 goal favorite with all the juice at home to Brentford. Over unders 3 1/4, juiced all the way to under. So maybe you see this fall to 3. I feel like it's rare to see Tottenham unders getting bet, especially after they only saw 1 goal in their FA Cup match this weekend. But the nice part, I guess, is they have a few days off, though Tottenham have not been playing in Europe, so they're not as used to it. Brentford have been really struggling for a long time. Yes, they got Ivan Toney back, but unfortunately, I don't think that he is done. I mean, he's a huge, huge impact, and we'll see what that impact will be. It was crazy to see him play 100 minutes in his return back to the squad, but I guess that's literally how bad of shape Brentford are currently in. I don't think I want anything to do with this at 3/4 of a goal. Unfortunately, even getting odds, I think I'd want that +1 at minimum. And if I'm going to take that, I think you're betting Brentford to all of a sudden play a much better football game than they've played in months. Yes, they did win, but they basically stole a goal, cheating when Ivan Toney moved the foam. That was pretty messed up in my humble opinion. Thank God. I think I had under in that one. So that was maybe made me feel worse, but it was a loser anyway, even if that goal didn't go in, though, of course, goals change games and then change kind of outcomes and where how you play, et cetera, et cetera. I was not happy about it, despite having an interest in Brentford to finish in the top half this year, which they've been awful. So don't expect much from that. Tottenham on the other side, I mean, they're going to play that high line, but can Brentford take advantage of it? I mean, Brentford have shown so little that it's hard for me to want to play anything but under with their games because that's really betting against them to score goals. Of course, Ivan Toney, when they get penalties, can score them and has a great, incredible record of scoring penalty kicks. But at that point, I mean, I mean, a normal penalty kick taker in the Bundesliga, they're giving a 77% chance to make it. So that doesn't say too much to me. I mean, Tottenham's high line is very scary to play under, but I guess since it's above 3, that's usually a key number for me, kind of like a 9 in baseball, or like, I don't know, I guess what used to be 48 in the NFL, but now is probably like 40 in the National Football League here in the US. But that'll probably be my interest there is under 3 1/4 because I just don't really trust Brentford to make this as a competitive game. Unfortunately, that then makes, I mean, 3-0 is a pretty big blowout in European soccer, but I guess I'm a little bit concerned that as this game gets out of hand, defense is completely out the window. And Tottenham are going to be going for it this whole time, giving up a ton of chances, and maybe Brentford are finally able to get off the schneid. Moving to the last game on Wednesday, we have Liverpool hosting Chelsea, a preview for the Carabao Cup final coming up next month, I think a month or so from last weekend. Liverpool currently a 1 goal favorite with all the juice. Over unders 3.5, juice all the way to under. Maybe you see this move to 1 1/4. I feel like that's unlikely based on how the market has treated Chelsea over the last, I don't know how long, well, years, because they keep rating them as like a really good side. I don't believe they are until we hear Conor Gallagher sold to like balance of books that Chelsea are currently running amok, and blaming on the previous administration, which I guess if you can say blame anything on Russia, you do it, and especially in London. Um, but Chelsea, I mean, they're at a point here where I don't know that I've seen them a 1 goal underdog in a very long time. Maybe in their matches, like in the Champions League final against Manchester City, but I'm not even sure it was that big. It's hard to say when Chelsea have been given this little of a chance to win a match. Yes, on the road going to Anfield. Yes, this is a big emotional game, match specifically for Liverpool and trying to get ready for Jurgen Klopp to leave after that bombshell announcement. Though I think there was some chatter it might be coming. I don't know that anyone thought it'd be this soon, but that was a big deal. It just feels like a really big price on Chelsea. So I'll put that one on my list. Certainly would like 1 1/4 more, and it looks like we'll get there. And along those lines, I just am not a believer in the Chelsea offense. So, I mean, stop if you heard this before, but I like under 3.5 goals because I love that you can end matches goalless. There's no overtime that kills your unders like they do in Major League Baseball or in college basketball, which is probably the worst. Besides late fouling, and then you might get late fouling in overtime. That's pretty bad. Also, college basketball has been super hot. For not member of my Patreon yet, check it out, patreon.com. So that's real_G Warner. Get all my picks, leans, plays, everything as I lock them in throughout the day. Write-ups get in there. I will alert you every time I put a play in, so you get exactly the same price I do. But back to this Liverpool-Chelsea match. I think there's going to be, especially considering these teams might not want to show each other a ton with the Carabao Cup coming up. I guess Liverpool probably care more about winning the Premier League, and they're on top right now. Chelsea need a Premier League result as well, though. And maybe the trophy matters more. The Premier League, I think trophy matters more than anything besides Champions League. So Liverpool are less likely to show their trick plays. Chelsea, I think, are might not even have any. They basically have been scoring goals from their high press, which is something that Liverpool should be able to deal with. Yes, it's hard on everyone, but there's certainly more teams more capable and more intelligent than Middlesbrough. Let's put it that way from that ridiculous Carabao Cup semifinal. Um, I mean, yeah, maybe with this falls at 3.25, but it's still above that really important push point of three. And I think three is a lot of times a maximum that I would expect from most matches, especially what should be a competitive match. I like that underdog and Chelsea, and I like under as well. So moving now to Thursday, we have a couple matches before we get into weekend stuff, which I'll save for the next podcast, which hopefully I'll be caught up on to a much better degree, and we'll cover uh English Premier League, La Liga, Serie A, the Bundesliga of Germany, and also Ligue 1 in France. And then I'll basically have a normal, hopefully, schedule going forward for a while. Regardless, West Ham are hosting Bournemouth in the early matchup on Thursday afternoon here in Dallas, Texas. West Ham currently a pick 'em with all the juice over under is 3, juiced all the way to under. And this feels very, very cheap for West Ham at home. Yes, that they're potentially going to move to a quarter goal favorite, but that's still fairly low. I mean, the London Stadium doesn't have a great home field advantage. I think that's been taken note of in the Premier League betting for a while now. But Bournemouth, they have had, to me, a really good run that then kind of stalled. And despite pretty good performances, so maybe this is the market saying that they believe in Bournemouth, but I'm not really sure. I mean, West Ham have had a ton of problems with injuries and also all their players being at AFCON, but I think Mohamed Kudus is going to be back potentially in the lineup for this one, or at least maybe on the bench. And then who knows about the rest of the squad? Paquetá was certainly dealing with some injuries, and we'll see if Jared Bowen potentially re-injured something, but he had returned. So this feels very cheap. But I mean, I like the idea of being against West Ham. Their offense has been much better this year, I think, than anyone expected. Their defense more problematic, but I don't think Bournemouth is ever really an over team. So under 3, yes, very juiced at the moment, looks interesting to me as well. I'm not really a road pick'em type player. So I'd want to see Bournemouth get to that quarter of a goal. But I like under 3 because West Ham aren't going to have a ton of at least cohesion with their players because most of their good attackers have been gone or are injured or might not even play this match if they did return. And Bournemouth, they're really built to counterattack. I mean, yes, they do find goals in their matches. It's because they're not as good as their opponents, really. But Andoni Iraola is going to try to keep this as low scoring as possible and then basically allow his thoroughbreds to get out on the break and try to score on the counter. And that's the goal. Because if they give up 0, they're guaranteed a point. And if they give up 0, they got a really good chance to get one counterattack, and that's all that matters. So give me under 3 in that one. And moving to the last match that we'll cover in the Premier League on this episode is Wolves hosting Manchester United. And wow, how Manchester United have fallen. Currently a pick 'em with a little bit more juice on Manchester United on the road at Bet Online. But very odd to see them priced in this way. Wolves have been playing great though, so I get it. And I like home pick'em, so I'll put that on my list. So I expect Manchester United is one of the biggest clubs, if not the biggest club in the world. They will catch a bunch of money, and I love when that happens because I want to be against them as much as I can. It was really nice to see them get bet a ton at home against Tottenham Hotspur a couple weekends ago. It was not the easiest match for the Spurs, but it did pay out at the end, so thankful for that. Total here is 2.75. She's very heavily to under, and I think that plays to both of these teams really. Wolves don't score a ton of goals. They're going to play really defensively, especially if they take a lead. Manchester United, why would we trust them to score goals ever? I mean, they do find some days where they seem to hit the back of the net, but those are few and far between. So give me the home dog and give me under. And I feel like a really dream scenario. Wolves move to a quarter goal underdog or potentially stay at pick'em, but maybe are getting money. I think these are reasonable possibilities. And then they score a first goal and then they kill the game the whole time. And hopefully Onana, who I guess was at AFCON, hopefully he's not going to get away with punching some guy in the face, though I guess that would be probably beneficial for under. So for my best bet, which I'm going to then compare to what I got in Spain, which I'll go through in just a second, and cut it up, clip it, and put it on YouTube. If you're not following there's a YouTube channel. Go check that out, the real underscore G Warner. Same on all of the platforms. At least I try to make it as similar as exactly the same as possible. Also, we'll put it on Instagram if you like things there. Plus, I can cut reels a little bit more interestingly, and maybe they're a little bit funnier and not 40 minutes. So maybe if you want to spend less time, go check out my YouTube channel, the real underscore G Warner, or on Instagram. But for my best bet in England, I'm going to go in the Premier League for this midweek. I'm going to go Wolves Wolverhampton Wanderers under 2 3/4 goals. I don't think we'll probably get to the 3 key number that I'd love to see, but for now, I still like 2 3/4. So I'll put that out there for all the people that are watching. Hopefully, a million of you right now on live past midnight Central Time, so 1:17 a.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday, January 31st. So I'm going to move now to Spain, to the Spanish La Liga. I mean, part of why I'm exhausted trying to catch all of these matches is they've been playing a million matches, especially with that Super Copa, going to steal some money or get some money that you badly need in Saudi Arabia. Well, now your best clubs are basically running on fumes for a long time, and they've got Champions League coming up. I guess the almighty dollar or euro, I guess, is that important. But we'll start for the early matchup on Wednesday. It's Barcelona hosting Osasuna. Currently, Barca a 1.5 goal favorite at home. All the juice on Osasuna on the road. Over under is 3 and is juiced all the way to under. Now, Barcelona, they're dealing with injuries. So is everybody. It's a long season. They play every weekend or sometimes twice a week. A lot of these teams have been playing a ton and in different countries as well, even though it was supposed to be a winter of only Spanish games. But I guess that's what you do when you grab the money, and I'll stop saying that. Osasuna, they've had a really bad year. Their manager's awesome, but they've been kind of in transition and have been very unimpressive. I don't expect them to score much, which makes that 1.5 makes you feel like if they get a goal, that's their kind of maybe their maximum. But I think it's more of a go to Barca in a crowd stadium, whatever. That doesn't really mean much. Yes, they did play at home this weekend for Villarreal, but it's a way different club that's trying to play defense that's only built to score goals. I was assuming it's going to be a much tougher test. So I like under 3 there. I think I like it more than the goal and a half, though certainly they're correlated. I just don't know that I trust Osasuna to get back in a match. And if Barcelona scored 3, we push. We would have lost the side. They scored 2, then at least I win the under, and I still would have lost the side anyway. Can't imagine it getting much higher than that. All the juice on Osasuna right now. Yeah, we might see this kind of flip a little bit, but I don't know that Barcelona closes 1 3/4 goal favorites here, especially considering their struggles as of late. Move to the nightcap on Wednesday. Atletico Madrid hosts Rayo Vallecano. A nice Madrid derby, but not really a real one. Atletico Madrid, a 1 goal favorite at home at the Wanda Metropolitano. Over under is 2.5, just a little bit more to over, just like Atleti at home are. Now, Rayo haven't won in forever. Got a good draw on the road at Sociedad, goalless, but it's also because Sociedad is like half of their team right now is available and playing. They got everyone in. They got the only Spanish player in La Liga from Japan, Takefusa Kubo, who's in Qatar with the Asia Cup. They had players gone, and many of them for AFCON, plus a bunch of injuries. And they've been playing a bunch of matches because they're in the Copa del Rey semifinals. So Emmanuel Alguacil is certainly making his money at this point. But Rayo did what they needed. Their goalkeeper, I'm a little bit concerned about Dimitrievski, as he had an injury and was not even doing the goal kicks at the end of the match against Sociedad. He said it wasn't a big deal after the match in the post-game interview entrevista, but we'll see if he's available. He's pretty important. He's a good shot stopper, not really a great play with your feet type of guy, the North Macedonian. But Atleti on the other side have really kind of been struggling lately. Yes, they've been getting some wins. They feel fortunate. Disciplinary records are still an issue, and I just don't think they were very dominant when they're playing Champions League and matches on weekends before the Christmas break or whatever we're calling it, winter break, and they just have not been anywhere near as good. I don't know if I'm as interested in Rayo, but I do like getting a full goal of insurance, and I like under 2.5 because I think Atleti are struggling to score goals, and when they're playing Griezmann and Morata together, I think as I said on the broadcast the last time they played, I think it was against Sevilla in the Copa del Rey, you don't have to worry. You can play a high line because they're not going to run behind you. So that makes it pretty easy. Rayo still play the way Andoni Iraola did before he left for Bournemouth. So I think there's going to be just a really hard setup for Atleti to score a bunch of goals. I'll move to Thursday, and the last match I'll cover in this podcast. Trying to do it a little bit shorter because it's super late, but I'm still going to cut a best bet. So stay tuned for that. We'll go Getafe, a home game to Real Madrid. Currently, Getafe 1 goal underdog with the over-under at 2.5. Use a little bit to under and a little bit more to the home team. So that's correlated and certainly is, I guess, betting against Real Madrid. They came from behind to win at Las Palmas on the road this weekend. And that felt very fortunate, but Las Palmas tried to play really defensively towards the end, or really once they took a 1-0 lead, and that was ultimately what doomed them, I think. But Vinny Jr. looked great. Didn't really, I guess, do too much, but had some big threatening, like over the top balls, I guess, taking advantage of a high line. Now, Getafe are not going to do that. They're going to be as defensive as possible. I expect Bordalas to make them as physical as they can be. I also wonder if he's going to play as aggressive as an offensive lineup he has in the past few weeks, months, whatever. Getafe started to score more goals and they started to play more offensive pieces. Um, you would have thought that one would have happened. The latter would have come before the former, but they basically just started to try to ride that momentum. They're going to need as many defenders as possible this Real Madrid match. I think that the suspensions that they were having to carry, I think those are wiped away now, or they were took place in their last matchup this weekend or on Monday, whenever against Granada. Now the big boys are coming to town. Real Madrid. Bellingham was suspended for the match at Las Palmas. Now he's available. They're a lot scarier, and I think Getafe can try to hang in this, but I think under is probably a safer bet. The real drama is if Real Madrid wins 2-1 like they did this weekend on the road, back-to-back road matches, especially after going basically to Africa, to the Canary Islands to play Las Palmas. Now they go back to Madrid. I guess they stay in their own beds because it's not too far to the suburbs to Getafe, but I think it's just going to be harder for Real Madrid to score goals. I still never believe that they'll score a lot. They seem to somehow, some way. But I just don't really believe that they're deserving of a lot of the goals they put in there. So we know Getafe are going to defend. We know Real Madrid are going to find some random goals, and especially late matches, maybe just because they're so deep. But that's going to stop eventually. So that's probably my feeling on that one. And we'll see what the lineups look like and how I guess Getafe will approach this. I think the more defensive the lineup, the better for under. Maybe gives them less of a chance to hang in the match, which does put the under at a little bit of peril. But for now, I think I'm more interested in the Getafe under than anything. And for my best bet for the Spain's La Liga portion of the show, I'm going to go with I mean, it's tough because I want to be against Real Madrid scoring offense. They just have made me look so stupid with these like 88th minute or stoppage time goals all season. Yes, the best teams do that because they're deeper than everyone else, et cetera, et cetera. And basically teams are dead at that point, energy wise. But on the road, it's tougher to see. I think Rayo are going to do a fairly good job. And I think Rayo on the road are very less likely to score. They've had, I think, some decent results on the road at Atletico Madrid. Coming back a few years. I don't know. It's hard because I also like the under 3 because Osasuna isn't gonna probably do much offensively, and you get a nice push against Barcelona, but they're probably the more likely to see the most goals. So I'm gonna go with that Rayo Vallecano under 2.5 as my best bet in La Liga. And just hold on 1 second, and we'll get to the ultimate best bet. I'll chop it up and throw it on all the various platforms. Real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and YouTube. So I'll put this ultimate best bet that's about to get recorded. I'll put that on YouTube and I'll put it on Instagram if you'd like to consume it there. Quicker, faster, quicker and dirtier, I guess is a better way to probably put it. Maybe not the better way, but it's the way I just did. That's a good spot to look for it. If you're not a member of my Patreon, check it out. Patreon.com. So that's a real_G Warner, the best spot to get all my plays, leans, write-ups, everything. And even if you download the app, you can get a notification like a little buzz or ding on your phone, however you prefer it. Assuming you have phones, maybe an email that tells you when I lock something in. So you make sure you get the price. Like grabbing Colorado State -2 last night was big. I guess it didn't end up mattering, though it did get a little bit scary when San Diego State came back and actually took the lead in the second half after looking dead for the first 35 minutes of the game, it felt like. But that was a nice hit. And pregame, I appreciate all the supporters there. I've been having a great year. I think I'm up like over 80 something units across all sports, including not a great college football year. So stay tuned there. I appreciate all the support there. Of course, if you're not on Patreon yet, check it out. Become a patron. And I'm figuring out some way to shout out all the new people. But once I get every new sign up, I'll probably shout out unless you guys don't want me to. So tell me if you don't. But besides that, if you're not subscribing to me yet, please do that on YouTube, the real_G Warner, or if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, leave a 5-star review. It's huge for the search rankings. And if you write something in there, I will read it. Didn't see anything the last time I checked, and it's too late at night for me to pull this up now. It takes maybe a couple of days to get out there. So maybe if you have some broader macro type questions, that'd be huge. Also been adding stock stuff to my to my Patreon as well. And that's been a good run lately as I'm a big bull in the market right now. So stay tuned there if you're looking for US market advice as well. And that's basically where I worked for a long time in New York on Wall Street. So that might be a better spot, but I've been probably gambling longer. So we'll see about that. But I guess that probably brings us to the end of the show. So it's time for that ultimate best bet. I already mentioned the casino bonuses. They're in the podcast descriptions on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, but also on my Twitter account, the real_G Warner. Best spot probably is to get me there. Slide in the DMs if you got any questions or want me to cover something or just want to chat, But that's it. I'm gonna stop rambling. So it's time to get in here. Let's go ahead and do it. This is the real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, and Twitter, also YouTube. And this is, you probably see this reel there as well, or short, or whatever they're calling it. Anyway, it's time for the ultimate best bet. This is a very brief but late night soccer show on the English Premier League and La Liga, both occurring but this midweek, Wednesday, January 31st, when we're recording now, and Thursday, February 1st, as we move on to the later in the year. Fortunately, get the first month and dry January out of the way. Anyway, for the English Premier League, for my best bet, I like Wolverhampton under 2.75 goals. And in La Liga, I like Rayo Vallecano under 2.5. But for my best bet, the ultimate best bet in the show, which is how you should all grade me and tell me how great I am or stupid I am, I'm going to go stay in England, and I'm going to go with that Wolverhampton under 2.75 goals. It's fairly juiced at the moment. I'll play basically under 2.5, under 2.25. Even if it dropped that far, it won't. I just don't expect Manchester United to do much on the road. Wolves keep this really tight and maybe even win the match at home. So that'll do it for this episode of Betting the Pitch. Thanks for tuning in. I will talk to you all very soon. Good evening, and have a great REM sleep if you're on this same time zone.